Hello, my name is Aidan Buckley, and this is my documentary pitch for my documentary Entr'acte. So, the synopsis of this documentary is I aim to explore the views and processes of creating art. So, that basically originated from my own passions within theatre and the arts, and a desire to kind of further my own individual perspective on how to create art and the creation of it to a person. And I hope to explain and really pull that apart a lot more through this. So, Entr'acte, as said before, aims to explore that process and how one creates art and the feelings tied to that process. So, both the creator's views and drives form this perspective on their own art, and the different ways in which various creators' approach can, help form the uniqueness through that like different perspective to make a new result. And I think it's really interesting the way that you can give a bunch of different creators like the same script and they'd all have their own different process to make this work, and you'll have the same script go on but seven different performances if you have like seven different creatives. No work will be the same, and it's I really want to like pull that apart and see why that is. And as for the actual style for it, I'm wanting it to be more of a narrative style, um, where it's following like the different interviewees talking as if they're unprompted, by questions, as if they're like telling the story themselves. So as for the actual treatment of the process, the primary sources of content will be from interviews, archival show footage, and like natural subject ambience footage. And I want to really capture that interviewee focused style, so lending more towards that expository mode. On the overall structure, it should revolve around interviews of subjects from certain companies and different backgrounds, speaking on the creative process and methods of creating art, and then the archival footage of things they've worked on in the past or been a part of, and places that they like to really like get into working on their art. I want to highlight those as they tell this story. In relation to the actual setup, I aim to create like a 2-point camera and audio setup, so I have multiple camera angles, so it doesn't feel too single like direction aimed, and for the audio, it comes out more holistic if I can have like a lapel mic and like a boom recorder at the same time. And a good example of the audio is in the proof of concept. The overall progression of the documentary should flow from like an introduction to the process to an example of the application, and then finally going into their future ambitions in the field, as they want to improve as the creative. So for the first case study for this, the first one is the show about the show, which debuted its first episode on the 6th of October 2015 by Kaveh Zahedi, and it takes on a very strong story guide format, very much in that interview style I want to hit. Much more conversational in the story rather than Q&A. I also really like the rehearsed and like structured segments of it, where like it almost is reminiscent of that like archival footage and that performance. And in its actual style, it's almost absurdist, if it was to be compared to a theatre sense, where it feels unnatural and unreal at times, but it's just real enough that it doesn't feel distant, which is really interesting to me. Outside of that, the other case study is Into the Manosphere, earlier this year in 2026 by Louis Theroux, and it's a lot less of the structure I want to follow of the case of I don't want to be so hands-on, which was really interesting that I still got a key thing I wanted out of this, which is the observation aspects of where there's those segments where he's looking in almost a second person perspective, and I really want to grab that. Outside that as well, the flashiness of it at times also I feel helped keep viewer attention a lot stronger than the show about show. Outside that, some legal and ethical considerations. The main one is copyright and content sharing, so getting proper agreements and, if needed, contracts for footage. And outside of that, for furthermore ethical concerns, making sure there's that line between intercompany issues and also representing the company properly for those that are involved, keeping that level ground across it all. And the production schedule is relatively simple location wise and pretty well, like laid out in a case of like a by this point this needs to be done, which I feel helps instead of clumping like this day, this day, this day, that it's a collaborative effort in that case. And most of the interviews should be able to be done in one day, with the in either GO3 or GO2 by May 28th, going in for June 14th as the final submission. Finally, proof of concept. I will let this play out for a little while, but this will kind of highlight what I'm aiming to do to bring out that narrativist tone. So, yeah, please enjoy.
In like, I want to say either year 8 or year 9, and I did that, and that was my first exposure to local theatre, and then I haven't let up since because I love local theatre.
Oh, fuck me! Zach, what the fuck? Pretty fucking unlucky if you ask me.
Since then, I have written a lot for Plays by Her Rules, like Plays by The Rules. I've written twice for Kaleidoscope. For Kaleidoscope, the one last year, I wrote a script called Surf and Turf, and then for the current Kaleidoscope, I've done Horse That Robs People, which is a seminal masterpiece. I feel like I would thrive on like Stephen King 80s Coke, you know, because like he's a writer and he did billions of books. And I feel like I would thrive because I'm very fickle in the way that he is, that it's like, I just kind of write about what I think is cool.